One night, one man, one answer to every critic who thought they had buried him. The whole world had spent a week writing the obituary of Cristiano Ronaldo. Too old, too slow, too finished. A 40-year-old ghost being dragged through one last tournament out of sentimentality. That was the consensus. That was the narrative humming through every studio, every podcast, every back page from Lisbon to Manchester to Madrid. And then Portugal walked out against Uzbekistan, and within 90 minutes, the entire conversation was set on fire. This is something that has not happened in the modern history of the World Cup. A player his age, with his mileage, with that much weight on his shoulders, simply does not produce nights like this anymore. They are not supposed to. And yet here we are. And if you think this was just one good performance against weaker opposition, you have no idea what was already brewing behind that Portugal dressing room door before the first whistle. Picture the scene, the stadium packed, the cameras tight on his face during the anthem, the eyes of a player who had heard every single thing said about him over the previous week. The Congo match had been a disaster. Portugal stumbling. Ronaldo isolated, frustrated, hooked early in some reports, lectured in others. Roberto Martinez under pressure. The headlines vicious. One Portuguese columnist wrote that it was time, and I am quoting him, to stop confusing legacy with selection. That line was everywhere. It was repeated on Spanish radio. It was repeated on English breakfast television. It was repeated in Ronaldo's own country. He had no idea how prophetic his answer would be, because within 24 hours of that column, he was on the pitch writing a reply nobody saw coming. Now, on the surface, a big performance against Uzbekistan looks like a footnote, a 40-year-old icon padding his stats against a side ranked outside the world's top tier. That is the lazy read. That is the surface. But the second you look behind the curtain, the picture completely changes. Because this was not a man playing for goals. This was a man playing for the obituary writers. Start with the result. Portugal needed it, not wanted it, needed it. 2 warm-up performances of concern, 1 outright disaster, and a group that was tightening around them. The pressure on Martinez was not media noise, it was federation noise. And federation noise in Portugal is the noise that ends careers. Ronaldo walked onto that pitch knowing that a flat performance from him would be the headline, not the result. He knew it. The bench knew it. The cameras knew it. And then the first chance arrived, and he buried it. Then another, and he buried that one too. The body language shifted in a way you only see from players who have heard the silence and decided to break it themselves. Teammates running to him, the Portugal bench on its feet. Martinez, for the first time in a week, exhaling. Read that carefully because it is extraordinary. A 40-year-old man, written off by half the football world, was once again the emotional engine of a national team in a World Cup. Think about that. Sit with it for a second. In the entire history of the FIFA World Cup, no man has scored at 6 different tournaments. Not Pelé, not Maradona, not Klose, not Messi. 6. That is the territory we are now in. 6 World Cups, across 23 years, across an era that has chewed up every other forward of his generation and spat them out into retirement, punditry, or Saudi exile. And Ronaldo is still here, still scoring, still answering. 1, 6, 23 years. Read those numbers again because they do not get bigger in this sport. And then there is the detail that really tells you how far gone the narrative had become. Less than a week before kickoff, the conversation in Portuguese media was not about how Ronaldo would perform. It was about whether he should start, whether Martinez had the courage to bench him, whether the captain's armband had become a liability. Pundits openly asking if João Felix or Gonçalo Ramos should be the one leading the line. The captain of Portugal, the all-time leading international goal scorer in the men's game, being debated like a fringe squad player. That is how cold the room had gotten. When the captain of your country is being publicly auditioned for his own job 72 hours before a World Cup match, the relationship with the media is already on the floor. Brick by brick, the case against him had been built. The Congo performance, the age, the pace, the first touch moments that get replayed in slow motion to make them look worse than they were, the body language, the substitutions, brick after brick after brick, a wall of doubt assembled in public in real time by people who had decided the story was over before the second act had even begun. And in 90 minutes, he kicked the whole wall down. Let me be fair for a second because this channel does not deal in fantasy. It is entirely entirely possible that Uzbekistan, with respect, is not the barometer by which we should be measuring a legend. It is entirely possible that the knockout rounds will expose what the group stage hid. It is entirely possible that the next defense Portugal face does not give him the same yards of space, the same indecision in the back line, the same gift of time on the ball. All of that is fair. All of that is on the table. But that is exactly what makes this story a nightmare for his critics instead of a footnote. Because the critics did not say he would struggle against top opposition. They said he was finished. Full stop. They said the body was gone. They said the instinct was gone. They said the captain's armband had become ceremonial. And one night against Uzbekistan, fair or unfair, just blew every one of those claims into the air. When you have spent a week telling the world a man is done, you do not get to suddenly pivot to, well, it was only Uzbekistan. You do not get to move the goalposts mid-tournament. That is not analysis. That is retreat. Now, what happens next? The problem, if you are Portugal, is that the group does not get easier from here. Martinez has a squad that is genuinely one of the deepest in the tournament. Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, Rafael Leão, Vitinha, players who would walk into almost any other national team on earth. And over the next few weeks, the question is no longer whether Ronaldo deserves to be on the pitch. The question is whether the rest of them can match the standard he just set. Because here is the uncomfortable truth for the doubters. Ronaldo did not just answer the criticism, he raised the bar for everyone around him. Martinez now has a captain operating at a level nobody in that media room thought was still available to him. And that changes the geometry of the entire Portugal campaign, the tactical questions, the substitution patterns, the pecking order in the dressing room. All of it just shifted in one night. And if you do not know the look on his face when he wheeled away after that goal, you know the look. The arms wide, the chin up, the silence demanded from the crowd, the same celebration he has been performing in stadiums across the world for 2 decades. Only this time, it was not a celebration. It was a verdict on every column, every podcast, every studio panel, every "it is time to move on" take that had been circulated as wisdom for the past 12 months. Because that is what nights like this do. They do not just settle one game. They settle an argument. They take the wall of doubt and reduce it to rubble in front of a global television audience. And the people who built that wall brick by brick by brick are now the same people scrambling to explain why their bricks were never as solid as they sounded. This is the Ronaldo paradox. And it has always been the Ronaldo paradox. You can write him off. You are allowed to. The numbers, the age, the eye test on a bad day, all of it gives you permission. But the second you do, he makes you pay for it on the biggest stage available. He has been doing this since 2003. He is still doing it in 2026. And at some point, the rational thing to do is to stop being surprised by it. FIFA thought he was finished. The pundits thought he was finished. Half of Portugal thought he was finished. And one night, against a team that was not supposed to matter, in a tournament that was supposed to be his quiet exit, he reminded everyone watching that the only person who gets to decide when Cristiano Ronaldo is done is Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, I want to hear from you. Was this the opening chapter of a legendary final World Cup run, or was it one great night against weaker opposition that the knockout rounds will quietly erase? Drop your verdict in the comments. Be honest. Be brutal if you want. This channel can handle it. And if you have made it this far, do me a favor and subscribe, because we are only a few days into this World Cup, and it is already eating coaches alive, rewriting reputations, and forcing every one of us to update opinions we thought were settled. Trust me, this will not be the last storm of the tournament. It might not even be the last one this week. The doubters built their wall. Ronaldo, at 40 years old, kicked it down in 90 minutes. And by now, honestly, nobody should be surprised. I will see you in the next one.